in the stories we tell. I lost my memory at the very moment I loved Gabriel the most. I no longer cared when he returned to the manor, nor did I care if he glanced at other women. Even when I saw him with my own eyes draping the cloak I had gifted him over his childhood sweetheart, my heart did not ripple in the slightest. Gabriel breathed a sigh of relief. He explained to me that his childhood sweetheart was frail in health, and he praised me for being more composed than before. I had heard from others how suffocatingly mad I used to be, so I was genuinely surprised. I could not understand why I would ever lose my composure over Gabriel to such an extent. I was born of noble blood and valued reputation above all else. Mutual respect between husband and wife was enough. There was no need to bicker over trifles. Therefore, I decided on my own to accept Gabriel's childhood sweetheart as his concubine. However, Gabriel was not as happy as I had anticipated. On the contrary, his eyes turned red and he lowered his voice to beg me. "Eleanor Lee, please, control me again." In my memory, I was climbing up to Han Ye Temple to pray for my mother. I had only closed my eyes to rest for a moment in the meditation room, but when I woke up, a strange man was standing before me, questioning me. "Eleanor, when will you finally mature a little? Can you stop causing trouble? I am already exhausted from court every day, and when I come home, I still have to face your accusations. Just have some pity on me, and stop making things difficult for Miss Shen." Dark circles rimmed his eyes, looking as if he had not slept well in a long time, his expression teetering on the edge of collapse. "Miss Shen is the daughter of my mentor. My teacher passed away not long ago and entrusted her to me. I cannot simply ignore her. But truly, nothing will happen between her and me. I have said it 1,000 times, 10,000 times in my heart, there is only you. You are my only wife, can you not believe me?" I stared blankly at him, slowly grasping the situation. My head pounded like a hammer was striking it. I reached up to touch it, only to discover a band of white gauze wrapped around my forehead. The man reached out and grabbed my hand. "Do not touch it. The wound has not yet healed, you must not touch the injury." I pulled my hand away from his. He froze for a moment, then sighed, his voice dropping low. "Fine. If you are angry with me, then be angry. Just absolutely do not torture your own body again. If you had not woken up this time, I do not know how I would have lived on alone." I looked at the man before me with suspicion. He seemed to care for me, yet from the moment I woke up, his words had been full of blame. It made me feel a subconscious sense of guilt before I even understood the situation. But I am not an unreasonable person. Meeting his slightly reddened eyes, I glanced away and saw Cora looking at me anxiously. My maid, who had grown up with me, was still here. I breathed a small sigh of relief in my heart, then spoke to the man who was gazing at me with such deep affection. "I still have a headache and wish to rest a while longer. Let Cora stay to serve me, that will be enough." He was startled, a look of hurt appearing in his eyes. "Do you not want to see me?" I smiled and denied it. "No, it is simply that you look haggard. You should also go and rest for a while, do not delay your court duties." His expression softened slightly. Just then, someone burst in from outside. Cora tried to stop the person, but failed. The young woman was dressed in pale, white clothing, carrying an ethereal air about her. She first glanced at the man by my bedside, then looked at me. As if having made a decision, she abruptly knelt before me. "Right or wrong, it is all Clara Shen's fault. Tonight, I will leave the Du Manor immediately. I will absolutely never appear by Lord Du's side again. I hope Madam will not take her anger out on Lord Du because of me. Please do not quarrel over me. He is already so exhausted." She looked at Gabriel with heartbreak, then turned a solemn face to me. "Madam, even though your methods were this extreme, Lord Du has never been unfaithful. After I am gone, please show him more compassion. Do not pressure him anymore." I looked at Gabriel. The man who had just claimed to have only me in his heart now had a look of complex emotion in his eyes. I leaned against the headboard. Though I did not remember the past, the unspoken affection between them was clear to see. Cora, who was usually calm, suddenly spoke with sarcasm. "Miss Shen has been saying she would leave since the beginning of the year until today, yet her feet have never stepped half a pace out of the Du family doors. For an unmarried maiden, you certainly give yourself a lot of importance. Reaching out so far to advise my lady on how to care for her own husband." Clara's face turned pale, and her body swayed as if she were about to faint. Gabriel's cold gaze immediately shot toward Cora. My brow twitched slightly. In my memory, among the nobility of the capital, there was no figure named Gabriel, but perhaps he was from elsewhere, had an extraordinary background, or was a rising talent. Until the situation was clear, it was best not to tear off all pretenses. I coughed lightly. Gabriel immediately retracted his gaze and sat down beside me. He moved to support me, but I raised my hand to stop him, then looked at Clara. Miss Shen, I can see your feelings for Gabriel are deep. But however we argue, it is a matter between husband and wife. There is no need for you to intervene. If you move out, I fear it will damage your reputation. Clara looked even more troubled. Eleanor. Gabriel called softly by my ear, his tone carrying a hint of reproach. I looked at him deeply until his gaze wavered and he dared not meet my eyes. Only then did I continue. However, you were entrusted to Gabriel by his mentor. If you leave like this, I fear Gabriel will bear the reputation of being ungrateful and unjust. Rest assured and stay in the house. Gabriel and I will no longer quarrel because of you. You need not feel any burden. I thought my words were flawless. But aside from Cora, the other two were stunned. Clara frowned, seemingly dissatisfied with my reaction. Gabriel took the opportunity while I was not paying attention to grasp my hand resting on the blanket. Eleanor, do you truly think that way? His eyes scrutinized me. I smiled calmly at him. Of course. It is merely a small matter. There is no need for Miss Shen to leave. Would that not be too heartless. My mother had long become proficient in handling my father's confidences. By her side, I had learned quite a bit. Therefore, I truly could not believe that the person they were describing, the jealous madwoman, was me. Great noble families value face above all else. How could I lower myself to calculate over their affairs? I would wait for them to leave before asking Cora what had really happened. Eleanor. Gabriel interrupted my train of thought, his eyes looking somewhat lost. Do you feel that my interactions with Clara are just a small matter? Are you not jealous anymore? This question came so suddenly it made me feel both amused and resigned. How could that be? You and Miss Shen are interacting normally. Why should I be jealous? Unless, you are saying the two of you have already crossed the line. Gabriel stared at me unblinkingly, as if observing whether my words were sincere. The hand at his side clenched into a fist. I calmly allowed him to probe. I had forgotten Clara was still kneeling there. Her body swayed as if she could no longer support herself. Gabriel immediately turned his head, took a deep breath, and said, You are right to think so. Miss Shen is in poor health. I will take her back first and visit you later. I immediately replied, All right. His movement to stand up paused, and he looked back at me. I met his gaze with confusion. He tightened his lips, grabbed an outer robe to drape over Clara, and supported her as they left without looking back. Cora walked over to close the door and let out a soft snort of cold laughter. Come sit beside me. I called to her. Tell me quickly, how did I end up marrying him? I remember absolutely nothing. Cora was startled and instinctively moved to call for a doctor. I pulled her back. The only person I know here is you, Cora. I do not trust the others. Before the situation is clear, I do not intend to let anyone know I have lost my memory, lest I fall into a passive position and be exploited by those with ill intentions. Cora gritted her teeth. What entrusted daughter? She is just using the title of an orphan to seduce him, tricking Lord Du's heart into leaning entirely toward her. I frowned and countered. I see Gabriel also seems to enjoy it very much. It seems he has tacitly allowed it. The problem does not lie solely with Clara. Cora froze for a moment, her eyes reddening. She lifted my face to look at me. The Bodhisattva has shown mercy. My lady, bumping your head like this was truly a good thing. I pushed her away. What nonsense are you spouting? Tears of excitement fell from her eyes. Before, you would not allow anyone to say a bad word about the Du family. It made people anxious enough to die. She poured out the story of how Gabriel and I met like spilling beans. Listening, it felt like hearing someone else's story. I could not connect the Eleanor in Cora's mouth with myself. Interacting with a scholar without a matchmaker or betrothal letter. Arguing with my parents just to marry Gabriel. Yet, on the second day after the wedding, when I went to serve tea to Gabriel's mother, I saw this fragile, willow-like young woman standing beside her. The moment she saw me holding hands with Gabriel, her eyes turned red, claiming she was moved to tears by seeing Gabriel's happiness. Only then did I learn that his manor was housing a Miss Shen, the daughter of his mentor who had grown up with him. Childhood sweethearts, two innocent parties with no suspicion. I naturally suspected whether there was a private affair between them, but every time, Gabriel would coax me and swear his innocence. To reassure me, Gabriel even avoided Clara within the manor, addressing her distantly as Miss Shen. Yet, I still frequently grew angry over their affairs, wishing only for Gabriel to send Clara out of the manor. Besides falling into the water this time, I had supposedly cut her allowance, left her alone outside the city, and even raised my hand against her. Cora's face turned red with anger as she spoke. She said all of it was intentionally caused by Clara. It was Clara who said she was living on charity and dared not enjoy good things, dressing in rags. When left outside the city, she claimed she met a friend, yet ended up walking back to the manor alone, looking pitiful and haggard. She was frail and sickly. A light touch would make her fall, making it look to others as if I had pushed her. Gabriel believed it all. He grew increasingly disappointed in me. From initially coaxing me, he gradually changed. Merely mentioning Clara made him impatient. The servants in the manor secretly whispered that my fall into the water and injury were karma for my past excessive actions. I was recovering from an injury, yet neither of the two masters in the house stood up to stop these rumors. Cora asked me, "My lady, what do you intend to do now?" I also asked myself what should be done. Clearly, on the day I went to Xianxia Temple, I was praying for my career as a female official. I had been chosen by the princess to receive a salary, not needing to wait for marriage, not like my mother trapped in the inner courtyard. Yet, just waking up, 3 years had passed, and I was married to someone else. Cora sighed. "It has been that way since you met the Dew Man 3 years ago at Xianxia Temple." I rubbed my temples. So, in other words, Gabriel comes from a humble background, and his current rank is no higher than my father's, correct? Cora nodded. Naturally, that he could reach the 5th rank is all thanks to the old master's support. I breathed a sigh of relief. Then there is no need to waste energy giving him a good face. Night fell before Gabriel returned to the room. He had bathed and changed into fresh clothes. I sat under the lamp, flipping through the Dew family ledgers. Gabriel took the book from my hands and reached out to embrace me. "You just woke up, rest well and recover. Leave the household matters to mother." The sudden touch made me frown instinctively. My body stiffened, and I pushed him away. Gabriel furrowed his brows, his arms freezing behind me. He sighed. "Are you still resenting me?" I was considering whether to be frank with him about my memory loss. He shook his head helplessly. "I knew the words you said during the day did not come from your heart. You just love throwing these little tantrums. But Eleanor, your temper really should be corrected. We have been married for 2 years, and the court says I fear my wife. I do not mind, but you still have to interact with other madams. I do not want you to be gossiped about." He looked into my eyes sincerely. "So, Eleanor, restrain your temper a little, all right?" If he thought I had performed poorly in the past 3 years, then he did not need to know I had lost my memory. If a husband has a heart, how could they not see the change in their wife? I was curious. When would he finally realize I was different? I nodded at him. "All right." He looked stunned. It was strange. I complied with his wishes, yet he did not seem pleased. "Eleanor, are you truly willing? No dissatisfaction in your heart?" His gaze locked onto me. I nodded. Of course. How many couples are truly in love for a lifetime? Mutual respect is the way to live. You are an official, you need face. Naturally, I will not embarrass you. He did not answer immediately, seeming to sense something, but soon nodded in approval. "It is good that you think this way. In the future, do not target Miss Shen anymore. She has no one to rely on and is very pitiful. We should help where we can. And regarding your injury this time, the fault does not lie with her. Do not pursue it anymore." I lowered my eyes and said nothing. So, I was injured because of her. Cora was not by my side when I was hurt, so she did not know exactly what happened, only that my head hit a taihu rock in the pond. My silence made him sigh again. He placed his hand on the back of mine. "I know you love me deeply, but no matter what, you cannot gamble with your body. Luckily, I arrived in time when you fell into the water. What if I hadn't? Losing your life just to frame Miss Shen? It is not worth it." I could hardly believe my ears. "Are you saying I intentionally fell into the water and smashed my head just to frame her?" Hearing this, Gabriel rubbed the bridge of his nose. Fine. She pushed you into the water. I believe you. Mother has already started looking for a marriage match for Miss Shen. Just wait a little longer. Once she is married off, you won't have to see her anymore." I curled my lips, almost laughing at his pretense. Seemingly dissatisfied with my attitude, he released my hand and stood up, his face turning serious. "Eleanor, I am not joking with you. Your actions this time were truly excessive. Until you think things through, I will not see you again. Reflect on it yourself." Gabriel gave me one last deep look, his eyes full of warning and helplessness, then turned and walked out of the room. I rubbed my temples, wondering why I had been so stubborn about marrying him. A man who claims to love me, yet the one he believes is someone else. Thinking of this, my heart suddenly gave a sharp twinge. I clutched my chest, taking deep breaths to suppress the pain. This kind of heartache should have been unfamiliar, yet it carried a strange sense of déjà vu, as if I had felt it often in the past. The doctor came several times to change the dressing on my head wound. Gradually, the injury healed, leaving only a faint trace behind. Although Gabriel did not visit in person, he constantly sent servants back and forth to ask about mundane things. What should he wear? Where were his belongings placed? Previously, I would have handled all these trifles for him with great care, but now, I had no desire to manage them. I simply told Cora to pack all of Gabriel's things and move them to the front courtyard. Cora returned looking much happier, saying that Gabriel's face had turned incredibly unsightly. A month had passed, and he and I had not spoken a single word to each other. Late one night as I slept, I felt someone softly push the door open and walk to my bedside. That person brushed the hair from my forehead and sighed quietly. "Why are you so stubborn? When will you stop being at odds with me?" Gabriel applied medicine to my wound, sat silently beside me for a while, and then stood up to leave. The second night, I told Cora to bolt the door from the inside after dark. Later, Madame Du sent someone to call for me. She inquired about my injury and my health. After some talk, she intended to hand over the household management to me, but her eyes were full of reluctance. I had no interest in taking over the messy affairs of this household anyway. "I am still young and have much to learn from my mother-in-law," I said. "Household matters must remain in your hands for things to be orderly and well arranged." Madame Du's brow relaxed, and she said to me, "Gabriel mentioned your temper had changed. But I didn't believe it. Now it seems you truly are different. This is good, it shows the poise of a proper mistress." I smiled in silence, my eyes catching a figure's shadow cast upon the screen. She continued, "It just so happens that a scholar is coming today to meet Clara. Come with me to take a look and give your opinion. I have watched Clara grow up, after all." She glanced toward the screen and sighed. She and Gabriel grew up together. I must find her a good match. I thought for a moment and said, "There is no rush for Miss Shen's marriage. A woman must choose her husband carefully, otherwise, the rest of her life will be ruined." Seeing that I was being reasonable, Madame Du continued with a look of regret. "I originally thought she and Gabriel were destined for each other, but then you appeared. Because of you, Gabriel insisted on not taking anyone else, which ultimately made life hard for Clara. Our Du family owes her." She let out a long sigh, using a handkerchief to wipe the corners of her eyes. I looked toward the screen. The shadow standing there was motionless. I retracted my gaze and said to Madame Du, "Perhaps we should simply accept Miss Shen into the manor as a concubine, to fulfill the affection between her and Gabriel." Joy flashed in Madame Du's eyes, and a sound erupted from behind the screen. Gabriel stepped out from behind the screen. His face was pale, devoid of any color, and filled with shock. Madame Du waved him over. "Gabriel, did you hear that? Eleanor told you to take Clara. Stop putting on an act. Eleanor truly is no longer the jealous and bitter woman she was before. She is indeed my good daughter-in-law." She was so happy she seemed to forget where she was. Gabriel only stared at me, his voice raspy as he spoke to his mother. "Mother, please step outside for a moment." Madame Du's expression shifted. "Gabriel." Her lips moved twice, she let out a heavy huff, stood up, and left, taking all the servants in the room with her. I looked at Gabriel as he took step after step toward me. "Are you truly willing to let Miss Shen be my concubine?" I nodded. "She is a woman without family who has stayed in the Du manor for a long time. Her reputation has long been tarnished. The noble houses of the capital will surely mind this, but if she marries into a minor household, I fear it would slight her. It is better to let her stay here legitimately." Gabriel stared at me, his eyes seemingly turning red. "Do you not care even a little?" I tilted my head slightly. "Why should I care? My father has many women. If my mother cared about every one of them, one heart would not be enough to break." Gabriel's chest heaved as he suppressed his anger. "You once said that if I wanted to marry you, I could only have you by my side. You said I must only love you and absolutely never take a second person. So why have you changed your mind now?" I blinked. "Did I? I have forgotten." His expression immediately went blank. I stood up and looked him directly in the eye. "It seems they were just unimportant words of infatuation. Since they are forgotten, let them stay forgotten. You need not keep them in your heart either." He suddenly seized my wrist, pulling me close to him. "You forgot such important words. You forced me to take an oath. Yet now you are the one who cannot keep it. He was angry to the extreme, but then he seemed to suddenly realize something, a flash of clarity in his eyes. Eleanor, if you are doing this just to spite me, it will only end in mutual destruction. Let us each take a step back. From now on, I won't even speak to Miss Shen. Just don't be so stubborn with me anymore, alright? I looked at him and said helplessly, "What are you talking about? What spite? I am truly thinking of your best interests." He stared at my face, not missing any emotional shift. As I met his gaze calmly, the certainty in his eyes faded, replaced by confusion, and then panic. "Gabriel, if there is nothing else, I shall take my leave." I pushed his hand away and turned to walk out. I had an appointment with someone today. I got into the carriage, but it abruptly stopped shortly after moving. Cora poked her head out to check and turned back to tell me, "Clara is blocking the carriage." I lifted the curtain. Clara was still in her pale white clothing. She knelt straight in the middle of the road. "I thank the madam for fulfilling the bond between me and my dear Gabriel." Clara expressed her profound gratitude while passers-by watched. Seeing her perform this little act, was this not already making the situation a done deal? I waved my hand, signaling the maids to pull her up. At that moment, Gabriel chased after us. Clara blocked him in public, pulling and tugging at him. At this moment, he didn't seem to find it embarrassing at all. I told my coachman hurry. I found their behavior disgraceful. At the gates of the princess's manor, someone was already waiting to receive me. I was led into a flower hall. Princess Beatrice was inside trimming a flower arrangement. As soon as I entered, she said, "Have you given up yet?" I was stunned. "Given up on what?" Beatrice put down her shears and frowned at me. "Did you become a fool after getting married? The rumors about you and Miss Shen have already spread everywhere, and you still won't admit you've lost. If I had known, when you came to beg me back then, I should have just beaten you to death with a stick. What was the point of making a bet?" I blinked and opened my mouth awkwardly. "It is not that I won't admit it, but," I pointed to my head. She raised an eyebrow. "I know you're a fool, no need to remind me." I sighed in resignation. I have lost my memory. I only remember things from before I met Gabriel. Beatrice's eyes widened. She stepped quickly toward me, lifted my head to look left and right, then ordered someone to call the royal physician. After that, she covered her mouth and burst out laughing. "I told you to listen to me, but you insisted on your own way. Now you've met with karma. Since childhood, I have been your study companion following you around. We don't need many formalities between us." She was free-spirited by nature and laughed for a long time without stopping. I poured her a cup of tea. "Don't laugh anymore. Tell me quickly, what is this all about?" She composed herself, took a sip of tea, and spoke leisurely. "Back then, because you wanted to marry him, you came to beg me. Both I and the Grand Tutor disapproved of this marriage, but for different reasons. He thought Gabriel was not worthy of you, while I thought you had simply been momentarily blinded by infatuation and would regret it sooner or later. That is why I made a bet with you." She was fishing in troubled waters. I gave her arm a light nudge, and she laughed. "I said that in less than 3 years, you would surely be disappointed in him. You didn't agree then, yet it has been less than a year since the wedding." She looked at me with a teasing glint in her eyes. "Regretting it yet?" I rubbed my forehead. I cannot understand what I was thinking when I was infatuated with him. But to the me right now, I regret it so much I am sick with it. Beatrice laughed loudly again while I nursed my headache. Like a magician, she pulled a letter from her sleeve and waved it before my eyes. I took it and was stunned upon opening it. "This is..." Beatrice blew on the steam from her tea. "A person always yearns most for what they cannot have, and you are naturally competitive. If I had stopped you then, you wouldn't have let go of that obsession. Even if I kept you back, resentment would have grown. But I couldn't just watch you jump into a fire pit, so I prepared 2 hands. One was the bet to keep you prepared, and the second," she pointed at the letter, "is a letter of separation written by Gabriel's own hand. I also made a wager with him. I told him I could help finalize your marriage, but he had to leave a letter of separation with me first. If he treated you sincerely, this letter would never reach your hands. But if you ever regretted it, you would have the freedom to leave." Beatrice let out a soft huff. "I thought that since I had warned him, I would lose the bet to you. I didn't expect Gabriel would still let me win. The irony is, at the time he swore before me that he would never betray you. I carefully tucked that letter of separation away." Thinking of Gabriel's disappointed look, my lips curled slightly. It is not strange that I lost. In his eyes, I loved him to the point of madness and made many mistakes while he tolerated me greatly. I loved him so deeply I couldn't bear to leave. He was naturally confident that this letter of separation would never reach my hands. But heaven had other plans. That fragile Miss Shen plotted and schemed, only to return to me a clear mind. Once I jumped out of that whirlpool of love, what is there that I cannot see through or let go of? Beatrice nodded. What do you plan to say to the Grand Tutor and your mother? I thought for a moment. My mother will naturally support me. As for my father, he originally opposed me marrying Gabriel, but after the wedding, he secretly supported him. Thinking about it, he wouldn't want me to cause more trouble, but it won't be difficult. I just need to settle things properly on the Du family's side. The royal physician arrived in a hurry, checked my pulse, and told me to be at ease. The sun was setting when I finally left the princess's manor. To my surprise, as soon as I returned to the Du manor, the servants rushed toward me as if they had seen their savior, leading me hastily in one direction. Before I even entered the courtyard, I heard the sound of sobbing and Madame Du's commands. You must take Clara. I stepped in to see a white silk sash hanging from a ceiling beam. Madame Du was holding Clara, whose neck bore a red welt. Gabriel had his back to me, kneeling before Madame Du. Mother, when we married, I swore that in this life there would only be Eleanor. Madame Du cried loudly, claiming Gabriel was trying to drive her to death, that he only acknowledged his wife and not his mother. She wailed that I had married into the Du family, but my womb showed no movement, and the Du line was about to end, and how pitiful Clara was for following the wrong person. I suppressed a smile as I watched this play. The people in the room noticed me. Madame Du pointed at me and shrieked, "It is all your fault, inciting my son to disobey his mother. You unfilial creature." Clara looked at me with tearful eyes and spoke weakly. Madam, if you were not willing, you could have just said so. Why agree with your mouth, but behind our backs find someone to ruin my purity? We are both women. Do you really hate me this much? I was confused. What exactly happened? Madame Du barked. Men, bring that bastard in here. Cora brought a chair for me to sit on. Shortly after, the servants dragged in a man wearing only his undergarments. As soon as he saw me, he lunged forward and fell at my feet. Madam, save me. You were the one who told me to dishonor Miss Shen. You said as long as she lost her purity, she would never be able to enter the Du family doors. Madam, these were your words to me. You cannot refuse to save me. Cora rushed forward and slapped him. Where did this mad dog come from, daring to bite my lady? You have the audacity to spread such lies without any proof. The man pulled off his long boots and poured out banknotes from them. Madam gave these to me. I am not lying. An old maid beside Madame Du stepped forward to take the banknotes. Madame Du immediately began criticizing me. Eleanor, I thought you had learned to be good, but it seems I misjudged you. One way to my face and a knife in my back. You are so black-hearted. If the servants hadn't arrived in time, were you trying to drive Clara to her death? Clara sobbed in her arms. Gabriel had not said a word from beginning to end, only staring at me silently. After the man pointed his finger at me, Gabriel closed his eyes and said hoarsely, Eleanor, why must you turn yourself into this? My heart only has you, truly only you. You have changed so much I no longer recognize you. He looked like he was in pain, but it felt less genuine than when he heard me tell him to take a concubine this morning. This farce had actually made him think that I still had feelings for him. I called over my own dowry guards and pointed at the man. Beat him until he tells the truth. 2 guards held him down while 2 others swung heavy wooden boards. Clara said weakly, Madam is not an official, how can you use private punishment? Are you trying to force a confession? I sat on the chair and looked at her. Then shall I take him to the magistrate's office? What do you think? Her face changed slightly. Madame Du hurriedly said, how can that be? It would ruin Clara's reputation and the Du family's standing. I looked at the man who was screaming like a dying wolf. Then we use my way. As the blows landed, Clara's face grew whiter. After several strikes, the man shrieked. It was Miss Shen. She was the one who gave me the banknotes and told me to say those things. Clara's face flushed red, and her whole body trembled. You are lying. You just don't want to be beaten, so you are framing me. Crying, she tried to step on a chair to reach for the white silk. I would rather die. If I die, I can at least keep my reputation and have the face to see my parents. Madame Du and the maids rushed to save her. I did not tell the guards to stop, they continued the beating. I said, did you hear me? Do not fabricate lies to frame others without evidence. Don't stop, strike harder. Beat him until he produces proof. Don't be afraid of killing such a lecher who dishonors women. If he dies, I will take responsibility. The man's screams became even more miserable. I have proof. Madam, I never even touched a hair on Miss Shen's head. She tore her own clothes. I am a laborer. My hands are strong. If I had done it, those clothes would have been ripped to shreds. You bastard. Clara shouted, her body shaking. I signaled Cora with my eyes. Cora nodded and stepped toward Clara. Miss Shen, which garment were you wearing just now? Madame Du barked coldly. I already ordered someone to take those clothes and burn them. What? Are you going to suspect me too? Cora looked at me. I let out a sigh. So there is still no evidence. Continue the beating. The sound of the board striking was terrifying to hear. The man gritted his teeth through several more blows, then seemed to suddenly remember something. I have proof. The guards stopped. The man's eyes were filled with resentment as he stared at Clara. She was afraid of being seen, so she sent everyone away and personally welcomed me into the courtyard. I climbed the wall by the large scholar tree on the west side. She was waiting for me under the tree. It rained last night, her footprints must still be hidden there. Gabriel went to the west wall himself. When he returned, he dismissed all the servants. His gaze toward Clara was filled with disappointment. Clara, since when did you become this kind of person? Clara lowered her head, so panicked she didn't even dare look Gabriel in the face. Cora let out a cold laugh. It is quite difficult for Lord Du to finally be able to distinguish right from wrong. Since you've confirmed Miss Shen's character and actions this time, why don't you reflect on whether the things my lady was accused of in the past were real, or just another play like today's? Gabriel's body shook. He seemed to understand something and looked toward me with a flustered expression. Sudden regret surged in his eyes, but I felt something was off. Now I could easily turn the situation around like this, so why did I allow myself to be framed when I hadn't lost my memory? Did I love Gabriel so much that I lost my sanity? If that were true, it was no wonder he cared for me less and less, for he had a reliance that made him fearless. I looked at Clara, who could barely stand. Tears fell to the ground as she sobbed. My dear Gabriel, why have I become like this? Do you not know? My father gave me to you, he entrusted me to you. I was supposed to be the one who became your wife, yet you went to offer incense just once and became hopelessly infatuated with her. You told me you had no other feelings for me, and even today when she finally offered to let me be a concubine, you still wouldn't agree. It wasn't like this before. Before, you were best to me. Being a concubine is not honorable, but for you, I was willing. My heart has you, but what about you? You seem to have completely forgotten all our past affection, Gabriel said coldly. I made it clear to you long ago. My feelings for you were only to repay my mentor, it was only childhood friendship. I have never for a single moment felt moved by you. Clara looked like she had lost her soul, staring at him blankly. Madame Du stepped forward and slapped Gabriel. I see your head has been clouded by that noblewoman. You are so busy fawning over your father-in-law and fearing your wife that you've made the whole Du family humble to hold their heads up before Eleanor by. Clara may have done wrong, but she is wholehearted for you. Her father showed you grace, whether you want to or not you must take her. Cora chuckled softly, and whispered to me, the old madam treats her more like her own daughter. I understood Madame Du's thoughts perfectly. I came from a noble background, yet Gabriel kept claiming he loved me. She needed someone of some status but who could not surpass her, to worship her. Gabriel closed his eyes, his body swaying slightly. Mother, please do not force me. I touched the letter of separation hidden in my sleeve and decided that before we divorced, I would gift this family a joyous occasion. By causing such a dramatic scene, I had an even more legitimate reason to shut Gabriel out. My parents had given me a generous dowry, complete with people and goods. I issued orders that no one from the Du family was allowed to step into my courtyard. I also told Cora to secretly inventory the dowry, preparing to leave at any moment. As I removed my hairpins and jewelry, tidying up my jewelry box, I discovered a piece of paper in a hidden compartment. I looked at it for a while, growing even more curious about what I had been thinking back then. Someone came in from outside to report. My lady, Princess Beatrice has sent a doctor to attend to your health. A figure vaguely appeared in my mind. I put away the paper and walked out, but when I saw the skirt of the person standing outside the courtyard, I dismissed that thought. Gabriel was also waiting outside the door. Seeing me come out, he hurriedly stepped forward. Eleanor, I know I was wrong before. I should not have distrusted you. From now on, I will never believe Clara's words again. Before Gabriel could get close to me, the female doctor wedged herself between us. I looked at the tall back in front of me and noticed that this female doctor had quite a sturdy build. Lord Do, Her Highness has ordered me to care for Miss Lee's health. It is already dark, it is time for the lady to take her medicine. If there is anything else, please discuss it tomorrow. Her voice was also very strange. Whether he was deterred by her physique or wary of Princess Beatrice standing behind her, Gabriel did not say anything more. I entered the room with the female doctor. The candles in the courtyard were lit, illuminating her face clearly. Seeing the heavy makeup on the person before me, I was momentarily speechless. When did you return to the capital? Felix Xi set down his medicine chest and took out a silk handkerchief. Give me your hand. I extended my wrist. He placed the handkerchief under it to check my pulse. After a while, he let out a breath. I only returned yesterday. Today I went to pay my respects to Beatrice. She told me about your situation and sent me here immediately in the night to help you. Felix was Princess Beatrice's cousin and was obsessed with medicine. We had known each other since childhood. Before I came of age, his medical skills had already achieved some success, and he left the capital to travel. Now, he had quite a reputation in the outside world. His fingers pressed a few spots on my head. Does it hurt? Little. It is not serious. Once the blood stasis dissolves, your memory will return. I looked at his attire and couldn't help but laugh. Did you kill someone out there and get caught by Beatrice? Felix was someone who cared extremely about his outward image. I didn't know how Beatrice had convinced him to wear this outfit to see people. He shook his head helplessly. So, when do you plan to leave the Du Manor? I tapped my head. No rush. I haven't finished packing yet. I told Cora to prepare a side room for Felix. He went to brew medicine for me. That night, I slept very deeply. Sharp pains throbbed in my head intermittently. In my dreams, layers of fog drifted by, many images flashed past, but I couldn't see them clearly. There seemed to be a man handing me an umbrella. When I woke up the next morning, Cora told me that Gabriel had stood waiting outside all night and only left when he had to go to court. I pushed open the window and found that everything outside was damp. It must have rained last night. Felix was in the courtyard practicing the 5 animal frolics. Seeing me, he waved his hand. Come here, you too. After washing and combing my hair, I followed him through a round of exercises. Outside the closed courtyard gate, someone shouted loudly, Madam, please go see the master. The master is sick. He fainted and was carried back. He is currently unconscious. Felix glanced at me. His current appearance was not suitable for meeting people. I told him to wash his face, then I personally reapplied his makeup, softening the lines of his eyebrows and face. Luckily, his features were naturally delicate, so disguising him as a woman wasn't difficult. I tied a silk ribbon around his throat to hide his Adam's apple, and Cora helped him restyle his hair bun. Looking at him now, he was simply a young woman with somewhat heroic features. I told him to go check on Gabriel. Gabriel's close personal servant was pacing anxiously outside the door. Madam, you finally came out. The master wasn't well when he left, but he wouldn't say anything. After morning court, he fainted as soon as he left the palace. The other lords wanted to take him to a doctor, but the master insisted on coming home to see you. He wouldn't listen to anyone. I said coldly, I don't know medicine, nor can I cure illnesses. If he doesn't value his own body, he is truly being willful. I showed a look of disappointment. I am not feeling well today either. This female doctor has high medical skills, you take her there. The servant stared at me blankly. Felix walked up to him, pitching his voice lower. Trouble you to lead the way. Once I send them off, I'll return for breakfast. Taking Cora for a stroll in the garden, Felix walked toward us from the opposite direction. As soon as he saw me, his expression was very strange. He lowered his voice and said, he is indeed sick and is still unconscious. But besides suffering from Wen chill, he has another ailment. Did you give him all the contraceptive medicine you asked me for in the past? I blinked. When did I ask you that? Felix suddenly realized. Ah, right. You lost your memory. Shortly after you married, you sent me a letter saying you couldn't let the Grand Tutor continue being promiscuous, asking me to prescribe medicine for him. Why do I find traces of the drug in Lord Du's body? I remembered the paper in the hidden compartment of the jewelry box and guessed casually. Perhaps he was greedy. Ahead of us, a group of people approached. In the center was Clara, followed by servants carrying luggage. I stopped. What is this about? Clara, expressionless, did not answer. A servant spoke up. Reporting to Madam, the master has arranged a house outside for Miss Shen and ordered us to escort her out of the Du Manor. I frowned. If Clara left, how would I perform the next act of my play? Stop. Invite Miss Shen back immediately. Her father had the grace of teaching the master. How can she be driven out of the manor? The servants looked troubled. Clara laughed coldly. No need for your hypocrisy. Aren't you tired of acting like this? I ignored her. My tone was sincere. Putting aside the grace of the mentor which is heavy as Mount Tai, where can Miss Shen go to live all alone? She looked at me, her gaze seeming to waver. I ordered the servants to take Clara back to the master's side. I will go and tell them to take good care of Miss Shen. It was just a momentary lapse, correcting it is enough. Clara was led back by the servants. She turned her head to look at me, I smiled at her. Her expression froze, and then she turned away. Felix stayed in my courtyard, performing acupuncture and brewing medicine for me. My intermittent headaches gradually subsided. Once I could get out of bed, Gabriel came to my courtyard. This time, I didn't have anyone stop him. When he arrived, Felix was taking my pulse, his hand resting on my wrist. Gabriel was about to speak but suddenly froze, his eyes glued to Felix's neck. I glanced over and casually adjusted the silk scarf on Felix's neck. Green suits you better. I have one in my room. You can take it later. Felix looked at me and nodded. Gabriel was still staring at Felix, his brows furrowed tightly. I asked him, "What did you come here for today?" Gabriel withdrew his gaze and asked me in confusion, "Why did you not let Clara leave? And why did you tell mother to prepare for taking a concubine?" Felix withdrew his hand and left with his medicine chest. I adjusted my sleeves. She knelt before the gates of the Du Manor once. "Everyone knows your good news is approaching. If you send her away now, what do you think outsiders will think?" His voice almost trembled. "But I do not want to take her." I looked up to meet his eyes. "Previously, you said you didn't want me to be gossiped about. If rumors spread that you were taking a concubine, and then she was sent away, how would others view me? Narrow-minded, unable to tolerate my husband's other women." He walked up to me and squatted down. "Eleanor, you weren't like this before. Before, if I even said a few extra words to another woman, you would demand an accounting." I touched the spot on my forehead where I had hit it, only a faint scar remained. But back then, I was in pain. My temper was unstable, wasn't that karma? Gabriel shook his head, placing his hand on my knee. "That was all Clara deceiving me. The one I love is only you. I love you." I sighed softly, looking straight into his eyes, which were rushing to confess his feelings. "Gabriel, she deceived you, so you are completely without fault. You love me. So why did you believe her and not me? Did you not know her feelings for you? Or did you think that even though she had feelings for you, you could remain steadfast and unwavering?" I paused slightly. "But why? If you were steadfast and unwavering, did I still feel insecure? Insecure enough to take extreme actions, as you thought? Was your so-called steadfastness truly achieved? Or was it just something you said for me to hear?" Gabriel opened his mouth, his eyes gradually becoming wet, and let out a very small choke. "Eleanor, I know I was wrong. It is my fault, I didn't trust you." "Why didn't I trust you?" I pulled my sleeve from his tight grip and explained to him. "Because it is not just repaying a mentor's kindness, you also have pity for her. A man pitying a woman year after year. Tell me, do you have her in your heart or not?" Gabriel was stunned. He lowered his eyes for a moment before retorting. "It is not the same. The feeling of pity and the feeling I have for you are not the same." "But you never drew a clear line between those two feelings, did you? Your reaction gave Clara hope to continue loving you, increased my suspicion of you both, and then you blame me for not trusting you." I patted his face gently. "Stop crying. Your body has been weak lately, don't damage your spirit further. The matter between you and Clara is already known to others. No one looking at you two sees innocence. Consider it for the sake of your mentor, take her as a concubine, and take good care of the rest of her life." "What about you?" He looked at me and asked. "What about you? Do you still love me? Will you leave me?" I silently looked back at those eyes filled with hope and did not answer. Someone knocked softly on the door. "Come in." Felix brought the medicine soup to me. "Drink it while it's hot." I blew on the steam and drank the medicine. Gabriel asked, "What medicine is this? Why are you still taking medicine?" Felix replied, "She fell into the water before. The external wound has healed, but she still needs internal conditioning. I received orders from Princess Beatrice to care for her." Gabriel stood up, standing next to Felix. They were of similar height, but having traveled extensively for years, Felix was slightly more robust than Gabriel. Hearing this, Gabriel looked at Felix, the hand by his side gradually clenching into a fist. Felix remained calm under his scrutiny. After I finished the medicine, Felix took a small packet of preserved fruit from his sleeve. I looked at Gabriel, having already prepared a rebuttal if he exposed Felix as a man, but he said nothing. He only gave me a look of immense heartbreak, then silently left. I asked Felix, "He nosed, didn't he?" Felix nodded. "Yes, he must have." I bit into the preserved fruit. The sweet and sour taste overpowered the bitterness in my mouth. "So why didn't he expose you?" Felix guessed. "He loves you." I thought for a moment. Perhaps he loves my father more. Gabriel adamantly refused to take Clara. The concubine ceremony was delayed again and again. It didn't need to be so elaborate, but I suggested we must give Clara face and perform the ritual perfectly. It was like dangling a carrot in front of a donkey, leading it forward. As the delay dragged on, Clara couldn't sit still anymore. She found me while I was feeding the fish. She still looked fragile, unable to withstand the wind, and asked me softly, "Is Madame sincere?" I looked at her. "Yes." She pursed her lips slightly. "I treated Madame like that before. Why are you willing to let me stay now, and treat me so well?" I scattered the rest of the fish food in my hand and walked toward her. "Because I know the suffering in your heart. You and Gabriel are childhood sweethearts, with deep affection. After your father passed away, you could only rely on him. If you leave him, in this world, how will you live?" Clara's eyes suddenly turned red. She lowered her head, biting her lip to suppress her sobs. "I never expected the one who sympathizes with me would be Madame." I smiled slightly, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "I am also a woman, naturally. I understand the terror of marrying the wrong person. You are just a pitiful woman." Clara raised her face, her red eyes staring at me. After a long while, she whispered, "I am sorry. The past was my hand rested on her shoulder, and I applied a little more force." The emotion on her face instantly turned into horror. I stepped back and watched as she tipped backward. Splash! Water sprayed everywhere. I watched her struggle wildly in the water, the corners of my lips curling up slightly, trusting me so easily. It seemed that in her eyes, I was a very good person. The sound of falling water drew the guards and maids. They fished Clara out. Madame Du and Gabriel also rushed over. Clara was soaked through, draped in someone's outer coat. Seeing them arrive, she seemed to find her pillar of support and threw herself directly into Madame Du's arms. "Why did Madame push me into the water?" I said I could leave. "It was Madame who wanted to keep me." I remained silent, wearing an innocent expression. I only heard Gabriel speak impatiently. "The same trick. How many more times do you want to use it?" Clara looked at Gabriel in shock as he raged at her. It really was her. Gabriel laughed coldly. "If I believe your words again, you might as well take my official position. Clearly, you did so many wrong things before, yet Madame arranged a way out for you. And still, you want to frame her." Clara couldn't believe it. She turned to Madame Du. "Auntie, I didn't." Madame Du met her gaze and sighed. "Clara, you've been granted the position of concubine. Why must you cause another scene?" Clara's eyes widened, large tears falling. She screamed at me, her voice hoarse. "You did it on purpose. You tricked me." Madame Du ordered people to take her away. Unwilling, she turned her head back to look. Gabriel walked up to me and said in a low voice, "Elinor, I didn't do wrong this time." Faced with Gabriel's ingratiating words, I showed no attitude. He followed behind me, constantly assuring me, "From now on, I will trust you. I will show you." I turned my head and smiled gently at him. He froze on the spot, as if his soul had been snatched away. A fragment of memory surfaced in my mind. A path in a drizzling forest, a man not far from me putting down an umbrella. I held the umbrella and turned back. The person blushed and lowered his head awkwardly. I felt as though I was on the verge of remembering everything. That night, trouble broke out in Clara's courtyard. She had attempted suicide for the second time, this time by striking her head against a pillar. She did not die, but she knocked herself unconscious. She had been under Gabriel's house arrest, and by the time someone found her, the blood on her face had already dried. When I climbed over the wall earlier, I was careful to sweep away all the footprints near the large scholar tree. Felix assisted me back to my courtyard. "These hands of mine were meant to save people. Why am I helping you harm them instead?" I brushed the dust off my clothes. "You are indeed saving someone. My hands have no sense of restraint. Without you, I might have actually stabbed her to death." The next day, as I sat drinking tea with Felix, news arrived from the other side. Clara was screaming at the top of her lungs, claiming that I wanted to harm her, that I had pushed her head into the pillar, and that I had an accomplice, a lover, helping me. Gabriel's face turned black with rage as he cursed her for still not giving up, daring to frame me again. Felix's expression was also quite sore. Have I really become the secret lover? I poured him a cup of tea. I whispered to comfort him, purity resides in the heart, just drink your tea and calm your anger. He assumed his role as an elder brother and habitually tapped my head. At that moment, Gabriel stepped in. His eyes, sharp and intense, fixed directly on Felix. Cora invited him in and then stood behind me. Before Gabriel could speak, I struck first. Since things have reached this point, you should take her as your concubine. Consider it a way to save her life. Gabriel looked haggard. Previously, you hated it most when I interacted with her. I poured him a cup of tea as well, my voice calm. As you said, that was in the past. In the past, I wanted to possess you exclusively, which put a lot of pressure on you. The result was that the three of us, you, Clara, and I, could not live in peace. Now her situation is peculiar. If you don't follow her wishes, it will be said that you are mistreating your mentor's daughter. It would be quite scandalous. I do not want you to be gossiped about in such a way. He opened his mouth but remained silent, unable to find words. I continued, furthermore, you do have some pity for her. Taking her in would satisfy everyone. Gabriel looked at me and shook his head slightly. I do not want to. I laughed softly. Now it is no longer a matter of what you want or do not want, you are obligated to do this. You must take care of her for the rest of her life. Eleanor, you have changed, he said. I asked him, is this not what you wanted before? He still looked like a man on the brink of death. I began to lose my patience. A woman was desperate to marry him, willing even to be a concubine. He wasn't the one losing out, so why put on this miserable act of a funeral for everyone to see? Felix seemed to read my thoughts and refilled my tea. Don't be angry. Lord Dew will come to his senses eventually. He is not an unreasonable man. Gabriel shifted his gaze to Felix. What kind of person are you? We are a couple speaking. Felix blinked, looking entirely innocent. I only have good intentions. I echoed him. He does indeed have good intentions. This person has the kindest heart. Cora, standing behind me, could not help but chuckle. Gabriel closed his eyes. Eleanor, are you purposely bringing him here to irritate me? You have succeeded. I have tasted the torment you felt back then, day and night. Now, you can let him leave. I also couldn't help but laugh. To irritate you. You think too much of yourself. Gabriel said angrily, if not to irritate me, then why do you have a man dressed as a woman by your side? Felix stood up and straightened his sleeves. Previously, when Eleanor was injured in your manor, Princess Beatrice was uneasy, so she sent me to care for her. Wearing women's clothing was to protect her reputation. There is no affair between Eleanor and me. Gabriel's eyes grew fierce. Do you think I am blind? I saw you tap her head, just now. Is such intimacy necessary for medical care? Felix gave a regretful smile. Eleanor and I grew up together. I see her as a younger sister. It was just a natural gesture. Lord Dew, do not overthink it, lest you damage the affection between you and your wife. Gabriel lost all his composure and stepped forward to grab Felix's collar. Stop sowing discord here. I naturally know that Eleanor only has me in her heart. Felix looked alarmed. I am not sowing discord. I slammed my hand on the table. Nuff, Gabriel. He has made it clear. So what if he is a man? He is only caring for my health. Don't you remember why I am ill? He and I are clearly innocent, yet you are hounding us step by step. Do you not trust him? Or Gabriel looked at me in disbelief. You are protecting him. Felix brushed Gabriel's hand away, straightened his lapel, and sighed. Lord Dew is a bit hasty. No wonder the Grand Tutor and the Princess speak of you as they do. Gabriel frowned deeply. What do my father-in-law and the Princess say about me? Felix only shook his head and sighed, offering no answer. I sighed as well. Gabriel, you are becoming less and less like the man I first knew. Had I known you were like this. Gabriel's eyes turned red. Eleanor, what are you saying? I looked at him. I truly should never have met you at Hanyi Temple. My father has countless confidantes, yet he must maintain his reputation as a Grand Tutor. My mother handles his women without ever leaving a trace of scandal. They treat each other with mutual respect, bound by interest, but with little affection. I had watched this all my life, until I suddenly met a tender and sincere heart. He said he would only be devoted to one person. That of the 3,000 rivers. He would only take one scoop to drink. He was always careful and serious with me, playing the zither and plucking plum blossoms for me. I told Beatrice that Gabriel might not be like men like my father. Beatrice laughed until she cried. saying he only spoke sweet words because he was poor and powerless. I insisted he had talent and ability, only lacking opportunity. Beatrice said my eyes were too good. That a man like that, once such an ingrate reveals his true colors, he will bite the hardest. I didn't believe her. Beatrice bet me that he couldn't keep up the act for more than 3 years. If he did, she would be impressed. If not, I had to be her personal maid for a year, from a female official to a servant. Beatrice was clearly provoking me, but I accepted the wager. Beatrice laughed, saying I was still young and this would be a good chance to gain experience. I was unconvinced. Who knew that on the very day of our marriage, I would see that childhood sweetheart with eyes full of longing. Previously, I only knew he had an old mother. I didn't know he had brought his mentor's daughter to the capital as well. I thought it was just her unrequited love and that Gabriel would hold his heart. After several of his choices, I saw clearly that I had lost the bet miserably. Yet Gabriel still tried to coax me with love. My fury at being deceived outweighed my grief. At that time, I thought about how to respond to Gabriel's deep affection. I asked Felix for contraceptive medicine, and while I showered Gabriel with care, I fed it to him every day. I made him practice his calligraphy and had him sign a letter of separation hidden among the papers. Clara's self-harming plot was just a side note to me. I simply went with the flow to make Gabriel believe I was madly in love with him. My fall and memory loss were mistakes, but during that void of memory, my actions aligned perfectly with my hidden intentions. I have remembered it all now. I have 2 letters of separation in my hand, one from Beatrice, and one I tricked Gabriel into signing. We are as divorced as can be. I ensured the news of Clara's suicide attempts spread. My father led the charge, impeaching Gabriel for moral corruption. The emperor issued an order for him to stay home and reflect. Against any other woman, Gabriel might have had a way out, but Clara was his mentor's legacy, a burden he could not simply throw away. His past mercy had turned into a trap. If he took her as a concubine, his reputation as a devoted husband would shatter, and he would offend the Grand Tutor. If he didn't, a virtuous girl entrusted to him was trying to die because of him. People would assume he had done something unspeakable to her. Either way, his reputation was ruined. The more he had performed his love for me, the more intense the backlash was now. Even Madame Du was panicked. She called me over, begging me to speak well for Gabriel. I comforted her. Mother, do not worry about my father, I will speak to him. Gabriel has always loved me. I am willing to take a concubine for him, especially someone with Clara's special status. Being a concubine is already a slight to her. We should bring her in as a noble concubine and settle her heart. As for the gossip, it is just a passing wind. If Gabriel performs well later, the rumors will fade. Madame Du felt a weight lift from her heart, looking at me with gratitude. Good daughter-in-law, I misjudged you before. Gabriel was there too. In just 2 days, he had withered away. He said nothing, only watching me. I walked to him and took his hand. We are husband and wife, we should share the bitter and the sweet. Let us get through this crisis first. Our personal matters can wait. He suddenly let out a sob and hugged me tightly. Eleanor, I was so afraid you didn't want me anymore. I was so wrong, yet you are still so sincere. To have a wife like this, what more could I ask for? I patted his back gently. It is what you deserve. The preparations for the concubine ceremony were finished quickly. On the 3rd day, Clara finally got her wish and wore the pink bridal robe. Gabriel invited some colleagues, most were of low rank, but I personally invited my father. Gabriel was incredibly attentive, while my father was cold and indifferent. My father looked at me, I lowered my eyes, showing no emotion. When Clara served me tea, I took it and smashed it onto the ground. Your Du family is truly too much of a bully. Before this, Gabriel had been attentive, but I didn't know how much of it was sincere. However, he was absolutely sincere about his career. He looked at me nervously, rushing forward only to be blocked. You claim that your relationship with Miss Shen was only out of duty, and that you would find her a good marriage. But in reality, you were having a secret affair long ago, repeatedly neglecting me for her. After she pushed me into the water, you accused me of being malicious. I have endured and retreated time and again, yet it is still not enough to satisfy your greed. I pointed at Clara. This person repeatedly harmed herself to smear my name, even using her purity as bait. Then I pointed at Gabriel. And Gabriel coaxed me into letting her stay, promising her a place as a concubine while acting like he was the one being forced. One face to the world, another in his heart. Today, I see clearly that Gabriel is a hypocrite. My heart has turned cold toward him. I ask everyone here to bear witness today, I divorce him. We no longer have any relation. I pulled out the letter of separation Beatrice gave me and showed it to him. You should not be a stranger to this. Years ago, before Princess Beatrice, you promised never to betray me. But in fact, you did not respect your wife and had an affair with another. Now that you have broken your word, I will not drink this tea. Clara pulled off her bridal veil, glaring at me. You harmed me, and now you dare to plot against Gabriel. You heartless, wicked woman. He was so good to you. What more do you want? Gabriel's face was white. Eleanor, you did this on purpose. You waited for this day. To take him down, I needed more than just my word. I had to drag him through the mud publicly. I bowed to the officials. Eleanor, stake the reputation of my father and my family on this. There is not a single lie in what I say. My father's eye twitched as he looked at me, then said to Gabriel, if not for my daughter's infatuation with your mediocre talent, why would I have ever married her to you? My father took a stand immediately, and the other officials took note. I glanced at Cora. She left to arrange for my dowry to be loaded onto the carriages. One by one, the items were moved out of the domainer. Madame Du clutched her chest, gasped several times, then fainted. I got into the carriage. A person from the Du Manor chased after us, blocking the carriage, looking like he was having a breakdown. Eleanor, why have you become like this? I gestured for him to come closer. His eyes were red as he approached. I asked him, after all this, have you still not realized that I lost my memory? He looked confused. Memory loss. I nodded. Yes. That time Clara pushed me into the water and I hit my head. I lost my memory. I forgot everything related to you. Consequently, my feelings for you vanished, yet you didn't notice. Seeing how you favored Clara, I simply stopped caring about you. Hope immediately sparked in Gabriel's eyes. I know you are angry, you love me, you just forgot our past. Once you remember, you will love me again. You cannot leave me now, you cannot make this decision. I brushed his hand off the carriage and lowered my voice. I lied to you. I remembered everything long ago. Gabriel, everything you are receiving now is what you deserve. The chaos of the concubine ceremony had too many witnesses. Gabriel's career path hit rock bottom. Princess Beatrice also joined in the fun. I asked the emperor to grant me justice. My father was furious that I hadn't consulted him, and my mother blamed me for being hasty. So, I fled to Beatrice's place, waking up early every day to comb her hair. She laughed until she was doubled over. You see, what did I tell you? Do you believe me now? I knew I would be mocked. I believe your highness is far-sighted, it is my blessing. She asked. When did you realize he had a problem? I thought back. Probably when Clara fell in. He looked at me with helpless, blaming gaze, claiming it had nothing to do with me while secretly apologizing to her behind my back. I realized he was suppressing me. If he wanted to use me as a stepping stone, I would use him to practice my skills. Beatrice said, you are truly patient. I didn't respond. Hypocrisy and perfection indeed require patience and persistence. The bad reputation I had once endured for him was now reflected back onto him. Every story of his villainy spread through the city. Even his claim that I had a lover was seen as a malicious fabrication. My father submitted another memorial, and Gabriel was thrown into prison. By the time he was released, his spirit was broken. Felix, now back in his elegant male attire, brought us a pot of nourishing tea. My father said Gabriel was meeting obstacles everywhere in court, making mistakes, and being repeatedly demoted. His mother wanted him to marry another wife, but his reputation was so foul and his household so messy with an unruly concubine that no respectable family would agree. Thus, Gabriel's support from a powerful father-in-law was completely severed. With his reputation ruined and my father pressing down on him, his career was dead. The status and power he tried to calculate through fake affection were ultimately illusions. Today, he has returned to his original state. Gabriel once promised me that if he ever betrayed me, his life would be full of hardship. Since he wanted it way, I didn't mind putting in the effort to give him that ending. The princess's gates are high, blocking the rumors and Gabriel's visiting cards. The last time I saw him was at Xianxia Temple. He stood in the pavilion where we first met, looking haggard and deathly still. Madame Du and Clara came out of the Guanyin shrine. The three of them gathered, their clothes much simpler now, and walked dejectedly down the mountain. I knelt before the Buddha to fulfill my vow. Everything had proceeded smoothly. Love should never demand the sacrifice of one's dignity. Eleanor's story illustrates that blind devotion can sometimes become a cage, and clarity is the only key to freedom. When a partner hides behind excuses of pity or duty, to prioritize another, it is a betrayal of the marital bond. The most profound lesson here is that self-worth must always supersede infatuation. We must possess the wisdom to judge people by their actions rather than their sweet words. Ultimately, walking away from a toxic relationship is not a failure, but a courageous act of reclaiming one's life, honor, and future from those who fail to cherish them. The story ends here for now. If it touched your heart or left you thinking, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Please like, subscribe,